Okay, Can you check my Instagram account to make sure it is live or if it's something I need to do?
I will. 1 moment, please.
Okay,
And you want me to do? Okay. Do you want me to check the
yeah,
other ones too?
yeah, the
Okay.
Facebook. Is it live on Instagram right now?
Hmm.
Okay, Facebook is live. Good. I need to share that out actually.
Hold on. I thought it was live. It said you were, but when I went to it
On Instagram?
on Instagram, yeah.
Because I think there's like some instructions or something like that.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it. It said it's planned to, so I don't see it where it's live.
Share now. Okay, so that works. Okay, so you remembered how to do this. All right, live folks. By the way, don't laugh at me, you youngins that know how to use this live stuff. I'm just getting there we go. Stay hired. I'm just making sure it won't be like this every time.
Practice.
She will attest to that because once I learn something, I'm like, cool, I'm ready to ride. So
there's nothing by learning by doing.
Yes, so copy that, and then I believe you have to. But why is it saying once if your stream is public, you'll find it at the top of your feed?
Well, yeah, I'm not seeing it yet. I'm going to refresh.
Facebook is good. But for some reason, it's not on Instagram. It says you are live. Stay hired.
Well, the worst that can happen is that you just post it on Instagram. How about that? You can't get it.
Yes, go live with more streaming software. But I did this yesterday, and I thought this was public. So that. What's up? If you're in the chat, shout yourself out. Say where you are from, where you're tuning in from. Give me a second here. I'm gonna try to figure out how to make sure it's live on Instagram as well, or maybe you'll find it at the top of your feed. Maybe they're waiting until 10:30 on the dot. You see, folks. All right, so you would stay hired Sunday. What we do here is we back up our talk. We don't just we walk the walk. So even if it's 5 minutes early and we're starting early, it's better to be early than late because we want to make sure all the technology and all that stuff is good. So maybe some of you guys could help us out with this question. When it comes to going live on Instagram, does it have to be at the specific time in which I said it? Feel free to go ahead and answer that if you know.
One thing I do know, that's how it works better with a team because someone will know the answer.
So next. There you go.
It looks like, from what I'm looking at, that it's going to be on time. They start on time. So if you plan it.
But the thing is, that's what I'm saying with Facebook, it's like it's already on.
Yeah, it is.
That's what's weird about it because I connected. The two are connected. So my Facebook and my Instagram account are connected, which is why I'm wondering why
one's on and one's not.
One's on and one's not.
Mm-hmm.
Oh wait, hold up. Yes, this is how you did it. Oh, all right, bet.
You found it.
All right, so stream it from emojis and Instagram disconnect onto your stream. Find great video ad. If you're already and you need to change, yeah. So that's why. If you're already live, if you need to change the stream key, remove this destination and start. Okay, that's what the problem is. Move and let's go. That's what we have to do. All right. So because I went early, it's a different stream key. Let's go.
Oh, look at that. 3 minutes. You figured it out. Good job.
So, so it should be starting like right now.
I'll double check it.
Yeah, I think with Instagram it starts right on the dot. Yep, that's it. That's the problem. All right,
Yep.
we're all set to go.
All right, cool.
So check just to make sure, just check the IG real quick to make sure I'm live.
Gotcha. Nope, I'm still not seeing it though.
Oh wait, maybe I have to keep that one open. It's saying it's live on my end.
Is it?
Yeah, it's saying it's live on my end.
Oh, okay. Well, you'll have to show me that later then.
You follow me on Instagram, right?
Yes.
Right. All right.
Yeah, I'm on there now, but we'll figure it out. You can show me later.
We'll get it started. Anyway. All right. So we're here. We're officially back. Week 2. As one Crookshank here, your one and only Move Swiftly speaker, former Division I college football player, and current 5-time published author and educator. Back with the lovely Miss Kimberly Blue, founder of Ardent HR Solutions. How are you doing? How was your week? Catch us up a little bit on, but from last live to this live. And by the way, folks, we're going to be doing these every single week. They're called weekly live streams. Stay Hired Sunday. It's before football. You guys already know I'm a football guy. You see the Michigan hat. I'm supporting it. So if I can make it, you damn sure need to be on here as well. If you are interested in adding value to your workplace, adding value at your place of business, and all that good stuff. So Kimberly, welcome. How was your week?
It was amazing. Had a great week. Very productive. Got some more content. Got some questions to ask. So I'm excited to get going. Get some new questions from the chat too. How was your week?
The week was great, and actually, to be 100% honest, you actually made my week just now. And believe it or not, it wasn't the Michigan win that made the week. It was actually what Miss Kimberly did, because what we do as professionals, one of the things I really do pride myself on is being an inspiration to others. And for you guys don't know, you're going to find out now because I'm going to tell you, but my podcast was then, I might have said this last week, I can't remember, but my show was the first show that Kimberly actually has been on, period. Like on the podcast again, just a couple of weeks later, as we've been kind of working together, she told me that she actually recorded her first individual podcast. And when you see your work and you see the things that you do, touching other people and getting people out of their comfort zone, that's what it's all about. And that's actually why I go so hard and I do the amount of things that we do and things of that nature. So you actually made my week with what you said.
Oh, that's so nice.
Yes,
well, you know what? We can't talk about the art of adaptability if I can't be adaptable. Yes. And that's the thing. You have to grow. You have to grow and get out of your comfort zone, because it definitely is not in my comfort zone. Yes. But you have to embrace it, and you just have to keep doing it. I always say embrace the suck. Because it gets better.
Yeah, you have to live it. And there's so many, and that leads me actually into the conversation we're going to end up having today, because there's so many owners of businesses that are, I like to say they're kind of letting the business run them, and they don't connect with people, whether you're the owner of the business or whether you've been placed in a situation in which you're responsible for hiring the employees, or you're the one that's actually the bridge between somebody and how they're going to be paying their rent. That responsibility, when they look at it like that, that responsibility is a very heavy load. And They don't,
It
a lot
is.
of people, what I've seen is a lot of people don't understand that they still have to develop too as leaders, even though you may be getting a
Yes.
comfortable salary, even though you may be the owner of the business, you still have to develop your public speaking skills. You still have to be the one developing whatever skills you need to do to keep the staff with you. So when we talk about the
Yes.
art of adaptability, we could just jump right into it. You would actually sent me, there it is, art of adaptability. So there's a couple tips that you sent me, and I'm gonna run through these tips as quick as this. Oh, by the way, so if you guys don't know how this works, what we do here is we're going to give you the tips, and then we're going to keep you on here for maybe 30 minutes tops, but we'll leave about 10 minutes for any questions that you may have in regards to how you can stay hired, how you can add more value in your workplace. So before we get to the questions, I want to go over the actual tips that you sent. All right. When it comes to
Okay.
business owners and cultivating adaptability, the first thing that you had mentioned is monitoring the industry trends, monitoring industry trends. If you can dive deeper into that, and then we'll just kind of kick things off here with all the tips that you have for the business owner. So last week we focused on the employees. Now we're going to be focusing on the employers.
Yes. So monitoring industry trends, if we don't know what's going on in the workplace, how can we help ourselves, help our business, and then also help our employees? So
Mm-hmm.
dedicate, just like with any learning, you can set up, go to the website that apply to your industries, whether it's BLR, SHRM for me, and, whatever that is, and dedicate 30 minutes a week to see what is going on in your world.
Mm-hmm.
At LinkedIn's a great place because there are a lot of different groups. Join some groups and put it on your calendar. If you don't schedule it, it's not going to happen.
What are some examples that you can give in terms of how you can focus on an industry trend specifically? And I ask that because I just interviewed. Shout out to Serena Diamond, man. She's another actually HR professional like yourself, and I actually just interviewed her this past Friday, and she used to work for IBM for 18 years. 18 years of
Wow,
IBM.
that's awesome.
And yeah, and
Yeah.
then she went off and started her own thing, and there was a lot of things that you'll hear when the episode comes out. But one of
Hmm.
the things that I remember talking to her about was, hey, it's hard to figure out what your trend is and what your industry is when you have all of these distractions, all of these platforms, so many
Yes.
different things. So when you say focus on, and let me make sure I read it the right way before, it says dedicate 30 minutes to review the latest industry news trends. Can you get really specific in terms of how a person can find what their industry is, how they can navigate it with all of these distractions that we have going on?
Absolutely. So I'll use myself as an example.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm in HR. It's going to be kind of multifaceted, right? So I'm in
Right.
HR. So the first thing I want to do is make sure that I find a website, whether it's LinkedIn, whether it's a BLR. I'm going to find HR websites to gain information.
Mm-hmm.
Go in there, make sure that I, have new information. Make sure you notify me, like any website has, that pops
Yes.
up on your email, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then HR, though, is very broad. So are you in benefits? Are you employee relations? Are
There we
you
go. Mm-hmm.
all of those things? So you got to then go to that next step.
Mm-hmm.
Are there any federal, state guidelines that have changed? Go to their
Yes.
websites.
Mm-hmm.
Put in a notification for changes. Then
Yes.
say and so now you're in HR and employee relations
Mm-hmm.
for a transportation industry.
Mm-hmm.
So then you're going to go to DOT. Depending on,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're always going to get DOT no matter what kind of truck driver you are. But,
Yeah.
so then you just keep going and make the notifications. So in one
Mm-hmm.
week, you could potentially have um, 3 or 4 notifications of news and trends.
Mm-hmm.
And the best tip I can give you is go to Google and you actually can put an alert whenever HR is mentioned. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to get a notification.
Yes.
Whenever transportation or a certain company is mentioned, take your competitor, put it in Google, go to news, go to alerts, and you're going to get alerted every time something's mentioned, your keywords mentioned.
Yeah, I,
That's
I
one of
was
the best
actually waiting.
ways.
Yeah. I was waiting for you to say Google Alerts because that's something I use myself as well. Google
Mm,
Alerts, Google Alerts is very big, and I would recommend,
mhm.
especially the people that are, like I said, responsible for owning the business, the employees. You are responsible for making the decisions that are going to keep people employed, how they feed their families, all that stuff. It's your
Yes.
responsibility to make these adjustments to your business and continue to develop. So again, we could probably spend the whole hour on this, the paying attention to industry
Yeah.
trends in itself. But I do want to get to the next one. The next point
Yeah.
that I truly, truly appreciate that you put here is creating a culture of learning. All right, myself as a current, like I mentioned at the beginning, as a current educator, teach at a school named the Center for Creative Education, a startup school where we use the arts integrated system to teach kids creative ways of learning. So
Hmm.
the culture of learning I have seen firsthand be something that is incredibly beneficial. And too often, it's crazy to me to think about it, but too often do when we get into the rooms with just adults, all of that vanishes. All of
It
it
does.
vanishes, and people just end up talking numbers, talking money, talking vacation time, talking whatever is going to do to just get by. So when you say create a culture of learning, can you please speak to people who are trying to do that, and what's the step that they take to do that so they don't get bogged down in the, oh well, this is how much money you making, is when your vacation time is, and that's like the end of the conversation. We want to avoid that because
Right.
that's such a draining conversation.
Absolutely. So whether you're a business owner, a leader, or you're looking just to grow yourself, you
Hmm.
have to set the standard. So something that I've said is you have to schedule it. Just like I said earlier, if you don't schedule something, it's not going to happen. So whether you take an hour a week, that should be the standard. Okay, your vacation time, you get this. But also the standard is you have an hour blocked off each week to learn a new skill. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be complicated. I mean, like if you don't know Excel and you go to learn Excel,
Right.
obviously that's going to take longer.
Yes.
But there's other things that you can learn, but you have to block it off and then actually stick to it.
Yes.
And that goes for the own business owner too, because if they don't model that behavior and they don't enforce that behavior, and I know enforce is a strong word, but you have to, because when you're working and you're in your flow, you're like, okay, I'm not going to do this. I can work instead of learn. But actually, what you're doing is hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So you have to lead by example and do it yourself first.
Yes, and I can't stress it enough when it comes to that element to it, because I've been around, and for you regular consumers of my work, you've heard me mention it over and over again, the amount of bosses, the amount of jobs I've had, the amount of situations I've been. I'm a former football guy. I've been in the business of very transient industry, and the
Hmm.
learning piece is where so many people go wrong, because you had it in your head long ago that once you got to this position, you were just going to stop learning. And I'm here to tell you the learning's never going to stop. Whether you're the
It
head of
shouldn't.
the company or you're the low level employee, you got to be learning as if it's your first day of college every single day. That's the way self
Yep.
development works, and that works. And that's why it's so important that you know exactly what it is you want to do at an earlier and earlier age. And the next
Right.
point that you make, seeing that we had mentioned that, is embracing technology. Now you probably be speaking. I mean, I'm it's not going to be just conversation with us. I'm actually going to be listening to you when it comes to this, because I'm one of those stubborn guys that, again, I still write my own articles. I still do a lot of things that I don't like using technology for. Anything that is, I
Yeah.
mean, you guys just saw, even if you're at the beginning of the live stream, I'm sitting here trying to figure out, while you guys are watching me, how to go live on certain things. So when it comes to embracing technology, I think it's incredibly important. But can you just talk a little bit about how to go about doing it without being so intimidated by everything that it offers, or everything that it has?
Yeah. You have to start somewhere,
Mhm.
right? And when you're talking about technology, it grows so fast.
Mhm.
So start with your phone. Do you know all the features that your phone does?
I do not. Absolutely.
Right.
Like I said, you're going to be like preaching to me right now,
Yeah,
because
I'm
I
preaching to
do
myself.
not.
I can't
I
tell.
do.
I called my daughter Desiree and I'm like, can you tell me how to blah blah? My 5-year-old granddaughter takes my phone. It's like boop 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 boop. I'm like, what'd you just do? Can you show me that again?
Yes.
So start there because it can't. Is so many tools. It could be intimidating. So
Mhm.
if you start with something that you use every day, like your phone,
Yeah.
learn something, one thing, and this goes back to learning too. but
Yeah.
it's also going to hit the technology piece. Learn one new function on your phone every day, and in a month, you're going to know your phone and use it much more. We're holding little computers in our hands and we don't even
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah,
So,
and it's worth the time and energy. It's just something that
yes,
I have learned myself. It is worth the time and energy because with technology, you can have a conversation like this. With technology, you can be constantly getting in front of your ideal clients. You can constantly be putting out material. I have gone from the people that knew me maybe just 5 or 6 years ago are probably like shocked because I couldn't use Instagram. I didn't know how to use it, Kimberly. Like I was a trainer at a gym, and these were like influencer ladies coming in, and they were like getting paid, but they were listening to me speak. Like, you need to be on Instagram. I'm like, yo, I don't know how to use it at all. And now,
right.
and they're telling me how much money I'm like literally leaving on the table by not figuring
Yes.
out ways to embrace it. And now I realize, look,
Yeah.
I'll make this point, and then we'll move on to the next thing. But certain websites and certain technologies are able to have scheduling apps to where
Yes.
you might see my account post like maybe 10 to 15 different posts a day. I'm not sitting there on my phone posting all this. That this is like pre stuff.
What? You're not
Yeah,
doing that?
as I said, this is predetermined stuff. This was stuff
Right.
that was batched like all weekend because I'm spending my
All
weekend
week.
doing stuff like
Yes.
this, and then all of this stuff, and they go. So I don't have to be on my phone all day. That's another
Uh,
thing that I was hesitant about technology because I didn't want to be one of those people that was constantly being bombarded with all these messages. But then I realized, hey, you can schedule out these things and you can make it so it becomes a lead
yes.
generator for you and just a way of marketing your stuff. And the next point is it leads us right into that next point is being open to feedback. All right. And I'll give my thoughts on
Yes.
this and I'll let you go. But I'll just use that example I just give is had I not been open to feedback when I was at this boxing gym, and I mean I'm talking about so the way it worked, it was called 9 round, and there were some
Okay.
ladies coming in, they already had influencer deals with certain clothing lines, and they're stopping
Hmm.
in the middle of the workout to take a picture. Now me as a trainer, I'm like, look, stop that shit. I want you to
You're
actually
like,
work out. But they're like, look, man, I'm getting paid. I gotta do what I gotta do. And they were
gotta do what you
telling
gotta
me,
do. You
and
gotta hustle.
I was learning from them in terms of okay, that's how you get these influencer deals. And then there was able to
Yes.
be that conversation. And, again, you could speak on that a little bit too as well.
So some people take feedback as
Hmm.
like it's bad or negative, right? And
Hmm.
it's like, no, like it's never like people can attend it that way, but if you give me feedback, I'm like, okay, let me think about that. How can I make that better?
Hmm.
So even if you do not agree with the feedback, you don't need to agree. If somebody perceives your product, your service, or even yourself a certain way, then you look at that, research things that you could do differently.
Hmm.
Don't be scared of it. Don't get defensive. Be open, embrace it, and say thank you for that feedback. Let me think about how I can change that.
Yes.
You know, I think we're under the perception that we have to agree with the feedback because we think we're amazing. You
Hmm.
know, we have to
Right.
be our biggest cheerleaders
Right.
because, no one's going to do it for us. But if someone says, hey, you know what, you could have done this different, then take it and run with it and learn from it.
Hmm.
It's as easy as that.
Yes. And the final point that you made is a term that I've yet to hear. It's called foster strategic agility.
Hmm.
Honestly, I've never actually, I know what it means, obviously, but I've never heard it said in that way. Can you speak on what exactly you mean when you say that?
So I think we talked a little bit about it last week, but being
Hmm.
able to pivot easily. So if your plan is not working on something, no matter what it is, if you're implementing a new technology, if you're implementing a policy or procedure, whatever that looks like, and it can involve our personal life either.
Hmm.
If it's not working, don't be so set on whatever that is that you can't pivot and change to something new. Because if it's not working, don't force it. Stop trying, to fit something that it doesn't. So that's what it means. It's being agile, whether in your personal life or professional life, to be able to pivot and be okay with that. Just so like an athlete has agility,
Hmm.
that's what your mind has to be. You have to let that go, that this has to work. It doesn't have to work. If it doesn't work, move on.
When do you offer a business owner to let it go though? Like, under what circumstances do you say, look, it's time to let it go? And I asked that because, like I was telling you last week, and regular listeners already know, I've been a part of many businesses, many business owners that have had to shut it down and they had to close their business. It's a really difficult thing to do. And
Yes.
I would see the writing on the wall. I knew it was going to happen, and they just kept trying to do the same thing, but it wasn't working. So what's sort of the measurable and the parameters that you give when you tell a business owner, hey, this thing you have to make it work by this time, or you got to wrap this thing up?
Right. That's exactly it. So when you think about anything that you do, think about project management guideline or a calendar.
Right.
You give yourself, when you're implementing a new project, you put on there, this is the date I'm going to start it, this is the day I'm going to end it, right? So if you're not following those steps, or one of those steps gets missed and you get to a point and you're beating your head up against the wall because you keep doing the same thing over and over again and nothing's helping, be agile and change the plan, which is the previous point, or call it what it is, call it out and leave it. That's it. You can't continue to force something,
Right.
and so I think when you ask the question, when do you call it, I was immediately thought of a project where we were implementing a new platform, and they tried, it would not give them what they were looking for. They wanted certain things, they wanted to integrate with another program, but they just kept forcing it for several months. So if it's not going to work, stop trying to force it. It was already determined this is not going to work with this product. So then you have to pivot, say it's not going to work, let it go. So don't be so stubborn that you just can't let it go.
All right, so we are officially at the 10-minute mark, and before we start to close, we want to get into some of these weekly challenges for business owners. The first one we've already kind of addressed a little bit, which is adapt a new tool or process. The challenge specifically is try out a project management tool or CRM software and track its impact on efficiency.
Yep. That goes along with the learning, embracing technology. So all of those things. So absolutely. The next one is gather customer insights. So that goes back to feedback. Get real feedback. Get it from your employees, get it from your customers, and ask them, really, what can I do to improve? And then be open about it. And then ask them, okay, if I can improve in this, get the ideas from them. They're going to be your best source of information because they're going to tell you what they want. People aren't shy when you ask them. It's when you don't ask them that you won't learn.
So I'll give a personal story on both of those because we're recording this one October. So this past July, I went to this event named the Creators Fest. Actually, I think I still it's right here. Still have the bag, Creators Fest. Right?
Cool.
So what happened was it was the first time I ever put this on. It was in Orlando. And what happened was there was a software named Go High Level that I use to this day. They offered a great deal that allows me to implement a lot of the work I'm doing and create a CRM and create funnels and all that kind of stuff. So I'm telling you from personal, the reason I'm bringing this up is I'm telling you from a personal experience is when you decide to adopt these challenges, then you're able to build certain things in your business that would save you a lot of money on the back end. I was in the process of about to pay someone a couple $1,000s to do the very thing that Go High Level was able to do for me. And had I not, like you just said, all right, I'm going to go and embrace this challenge or create something new in my business, then who knows, I would have had to figure out how to pay a coach to do it. And that same thing that they offered. In fact, it was somebody who had he had offered a coaching program. And then I went back and listened to it, and then he mentioned Go High Level, and I realized, wait a minute, I'm already signed up to it. So it was easy for me to adjust and pivot and stuff like that. So I'm telling you that from personal experience. Now the next one is delegate a task. There we go. Delegate a task. This is where a lot of you owners can get a little stubborn because you want to hold on to your business. Again, myself being a Michigan fan, I've seen head coaches who were once offensive coordinators. They don't want to let go of the play calling duties, and now you see what we are getting. It's a lot that we can go here, but I'll let you kind of briefly talk about it before we get into the questions.
Okay. So it is hard. So you know in your brain, you're like, okay, if I do this, I'm gonna be done and it's over with.
Mm-hmm.
And I know it's done right, right? But what you're doing is not allowing others to grow and learn.
Mm-hmm.
So when you take that growth mindset, you're going to show and then let do. And so you can let your team grow and then they're going to teach somebody how to do it.
Yes.
That's fostering that culture of learning,
Yes.
and creating new leaders. That's the
Yes.
why behind that.
The easiest way, the question that you got to ask yourself every day is, as an owner, if you were to hang it up as an owner today, if you were to retire today, can your business still run without you?
Yes.
Or God forbid something happens, or you going to go on vacation, whatever it is, whatever is going to pull you away from the business, can it still run without you being there? If you can't
Yep.
do that, then you have a ton of work to do in regards to
Yes.
delegating the responsibility to somebody else. So we have
You should
time
be
for
always training your replacement.
right.
Always.
Okay, so we do have two more points, but I feel like we should just kind of save those for next week because we're already at 10:55, and I do
Yep.
want to
Let's do
get
it.
to we'll save those for next week.
Cool.
And like I said, again, listeners, we're here every single week. You can always catch the replay as well. You can always access questions throughout the week, which is the way most of the questions are. This is how we started. Most of the questions that we're getting are questions that we're actually getting from people throughout the week. And the main one that I got from a colleague of mine who was a former military was he listened to the episode, listened to the stream from last week, and we were talking about how you as an Army veteran has a lot of qualities that you can offer a business owner that you need to be emphasizing in your job process and your application process, however you go about getting the job as a former veteran. His pushback to that point was the mindset of the typical veteran, the mindset of a typical person that's been through the Army is of service. So bragging about themselves, talking about how good they were and how great qualities they were, that's not something that comes natural to them. So his question was, how do you emphasize that element to it, and how do you teach that so we can kind of flip the mindset of okay, I'm going to be humble and I'm just going to do my job, versus no, I'm actually someone that you need, and I'm going to brag about myself a little bit so I can get this
Right.
job.
So it's a great question. When you told me about it a few minutes ago, I've been
Mm-hmm.
thinking, you can see me like in my head, how can we turn this around,
The
right?
way it is, that's why we do live
Yeah,
streams, man. This is all
exactly.
natural stuff. We're not doing no pre-recorded nonsense.
Right.
That's for the folks that just want to BS you.
Yes, exactly. So instead of thinking it as self-promotion, it's a mind shift change.
Mm-hmm.
Because they are service mindset, obviously, think of it just like that, service to the team. So your approach, instead of thinking I'm bragging or self-promotion, see it as providing valuable information so the team understands what you bring to the table
Mm-hmm.
and how you can help the group as a whole,
Mm-hmm.
because they're still providing a service. So
Mm-hmm.
it keeps in with the service mindset, but you're still giving them the information on how you can help this company.
And the one thing I'll add to that is, with that mindset, you do find the right service for you. Okay. So
Yeah.
when I say that, as when you're thinking like this, when you're thinking of, okay, I know what I can bring to the table. I know how good I am at this particular skill, or whatever my money making skill is, whatever I'm a genius level talent at. If you approach it with the service level mindset, you won't
Mm,
take a job that doesn't provide that quality service, right? You won't
right.
be that person. So I'll even give you an example. One of the things that I didn't like when I worked at LA Fitness was that I had a manager that was telling people they didn't need surgery so they can get a membership. For me, again, I'm a person that lived through an ACL injury. I am the last one that's going to go and tell someone that I personally didn't diagnose that out because I'm not a doctor. I didn't
Right.
I'm not going to tell you, oh, you don't
That's
need surgery.
scary.
I'm not going to tell. I mean, my grandma, I have two grandma, one passed away from diabetes, the other one passed away from cancer. I'm not going to tell a elderly lady that comes into a gym that wants to work hard, you don't need surgery because I want to sell a gym membership. That's
Right.
unethical. Now, the service
Yes.
mindset, if you go with the service mindset, now, again, do I like selling gym memberships? Absolutely, but I want to do it in an ethical way. And
Ethical
had I
way.
had, I guess if I met you before I took that job, I would have had it in my mind. Okay, this is the
Mhm.
service I can provide, but I'm not willing to cross certain ethical lines. And
Right.
especially if we're talking about former veterans, especially talking about Army, you are not crossing ethical lines. There's no way you would even been able to do the work you do previously to cross those ethical lines. So we're talking
Exactly.
about flipping the mindset. This is the work you need to be doing on your end. You need to be coming on here asking, and even if it's not just us two, but you need to be asking as many questions as humanly possible, because if you don't, you get swallowed up in what somebody else's vision is for your life and for your career and all that kind of stuff. And that's a place, trust me, you don't want to be. So you don't want to
Yeah.
be. I'm sure we could go another hour on that principle in itself. You don't want to be in a situation where you are absolutely being sucked dry at work and you're just not
Hmm.
growing. That's a terrible, terrible spot to be in.
That's not, it is. Another thing I just thought about when you were talking, because I'm service mindset too. Like, this is
Mm-hmm.
why we do what we do, right?
While we're doing it, right?
So they could say, how can I help? So what are your top, what are your top three concerns or challenges that your opportunities that you're having? And
Mm-hmm.
when they tell it, you're basically asking, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
When they tell you what their challenges are, then the veteran or anyone can say, well, this is how I can help you,
Mm-hmm.
and put it in that team collaboration format instead of thinking like they're tooting their own horn, but they should be. But
Yes.
changing that mindset to team collaboration and how can I help solve your problem, because that's what they like to do.
Yes.
Think about it like that instead.
Yes, and like I said, we'll dive more into this. We'll spend as much time on this particular thing as possible. We're just going to
Yeah,
be going off based on the questions that we're getting from the people that need our services. Again, we put our money where our mouth is. We're not here to necessarily sell you anything in particular, as opposed to just give you the advice that you're going to be needing, because that's us doing our part and walking the walk. So, all that being said, do you have any kind of closing thoughts, anything that you would want to share before we officially close?
well, I want to hear next week that somebody learned, everyone that joins, that they learned something new this week.
Yes,
Put it on
yes.
the calendar today.
Put it on the calendar.
Make it right. Make
Make it
it a
happen.
habit. Yep.
Make it happen. Yes,
Make
make
it
it happen.
happen.
And if you do want to submit questions, the website to that, it's stayhired.makeyourmove.com. I'm sure it's somewhere in the chat somewhere, stayhired.makeyourmove.com. If you would like to remain anonymous as well, we have that option as well. If you don't want your name, being said or posted out here, we would respect that as well. So all that being said, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.
Till next time.
Talk more next week.